Hello everyone, welcome back to Brilliant Pit Seasonal Wellness YouTube channel. My name is Liz. I am the owner of Brilliant Pit, studying herbalist. I also study the cyclical nature of the seasons as well. And I talk about seasonal wellness, astrology, and everything that has to do with the cycles of nature on this channel. So this month, as you can see, we are going to be talking about summer solstice symbolism, summer wellness, and Cancer season. So within Cancer season, we are going to be talking about the symbolism of Cancer, but not only that, we will be touching on the forecast, the astrological forecast. So that will give you some insight into what you can expect kind of the energies to be like this month, which is very nuanced, very much integrated into lifestyle, as well as the lifestyle and business tips that I always include in my seasonal wellness videos. So that is what you can look forward to today. We will be touching on symbolism first, forecast second, lifestyle tips, and then business tips after that. So as you can see, this month I am in a different kind of atmosphere. I am actually visiting home right now, and it has been so symbolic of what summer really means. Like, my life has mirrored exactly the symbolism of what I'm actually going to be talking about in this video. The summertime, as we all can really relate to, is this time of outward expansion, outward expression, and outward growth. It's truly all about being in the world, in the outer world. And with that, at least in the northern hemisphere, it coincides beautifully with the opposing forces of the tropical signs of Cancer and Capricorn. When we speak symbolically about Cancer, we are talking about the inner world, the world of our emotions, the world of our inner desires, our reflections, and things that have to do with kind of the emotional dealings, the emotional awareness of our life, and as it relates to our legacy and reputation in the world. And all of that is really symbolic of this axis of Cancer and Capricorn, because Capricorn is all about the outer world, the dealings in the outer world that have to do with your legacy, the finding of meaning when it comes to like reaching the limitations of your life, the thresholds of your abilities, your achievements, the outer motivations, the yang to the yin of Cancer. So I always find that when it comes to kind of the seasons, when we're relating it back to seasonal wellness, the summertime being very supportive of being outward gives perfect balance to what Cancer symbolizes, which is the inner emotional status, the inner emotional world. So with all of that kind of being a prerequisite of what we are going to be talking about today, I will get into the symbolism of Cancer, just so we touch base on the basics of Cancer. You understand kind of the attributes and how they all play a role in these lifestyle, business tips, and the forecast ahead. So as you know, I love to kind of read my notes because I do very well when it comes to writing and writing out my thoughts. I put a lot of thought into these notes. So sometimes it's just easier for me to read and then reflect on what I just said. So Cancer is the cardinal water sign of the zodiac, ruled by the moon. So what does that really mean? So basically, we are at the beginning of a season once again, and we are at the turning point of the year, and there are only two turning points, tropos, tropical signs in the zodiac, which means Cancer and Capricorn are the only tropic signs that really indicate a turning point. And what exactly does that mean? This turning point that I'm referring to is of the sun's descent and the sun's ascent. So Capricorn actually symbolizes the sun's movement of rising. So Capricorn is the symbol of the most low point of the sun. The sun is at its, I guess, peak descent on December 21st, around there. Cancer actually symbolizes the peak of light, the most sunlight. So the sun is at its peak ascent, and then it symbolizes the beginning of the descent. So technically, the sun is now on its way back down into the underworld, which is weird to think about in just like this bright, beautiful, sunny weather. But it is the truth. So that really does speak to, at least for me, in Capricorn season in December, when it is dark and we are just about to get into like the deepest, darkest place of the year. You always have to remember that December 21st is the shortest day of the year, or around there is always the shortest day of the year. And then the sun starts to peak its light way more into the daytime. So now that the sun is at its peak light, we've had the longest day of the year a couple days ago. We are now the sun is now falling back into the underworld. It will start to get darker and darker basically by the minute from here on out during the day. So, the cardinal aspect of Cancer symbolizes the beginning of a season, and Cancer and Capricorn are just much more symbolic in terms of the turning points of the year, much similar to Aries and Libra with the fall equinox and the spring vernal equinox. They're the most balanced point of light, so it is in the middle of the descent of the sun and the middle of the ascent of the sun. So that is like the balancing point. It is called the equinox. Cancer and Capricorn identify as the solstice moment, and the solstice is really just meaning and referring to this turning point of the tropical signs. So Cancer is a water sign. What does that mean? So Cancer is one of the 3 water signs of the zodiac. There is Scorpio and there is Pisces. Cancer is actually the only cardinal water sign. So cardinal really, really does indicate the tendency to begin things, to innovate, to start, and to almost take action. It's a very initiative sign. You may notice that in sun signs of people who are Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, or Libra. And that is really just speaking to the, tendencies. As a water sign, there's more contextual tendencies for emotional affinity, emotional well-being, while also being just super in touch with, when it comes to communication. Maybe you might find that a Pisces, a Scorpio, a Cancer is ultra sensitive to certain, whether it's environments, communication, or just, experiences in life. So that is really what water signs can symbolize. Now, Cancer is ruled by the moon. So the moon, we know, is a planet that moves very, very fast. It is a 28-day cycle, about 28 to 30-day cycle around the zodiac. So if you put that into perspective, it takes the sun 365 days. So it takes the moon 28 days to do what the sun does in 365 days. All of the planets have different kind of points of movement, but that is just to give you some perspective of, also the tendencies of the moon. The moon has been symbolized to deal with kind of moodiness, the changeability of environment. I've also heard the moon really indicate affinities towards money and what money can, how money can show up in the currents of your life, right? Think about the currents, the ocean. The ocean is wildly affected by the moon. So if that gives you any insight into kind of the main, key indicators of Cancer, this is what that is. Cancer rules the home and inner world. This is the summer solstice, outermost moment of the year, and we are dealing with the tropics, which actually, I believe in Latin, is also translated to tropos, which means to turn. It is like a turning point, as I've said. This is a time of outward activity and is balanced with the constellation, a yin feminine water sign that symbolizes the world of your home life and self-reflection. So basically everything I just said, written in one. Okay, So now that we kind of know the symbolism of Cancer, by the way, I'm a Cancer, so I feel like I have kind of this viewpoint that is obviously close to home and could be biased. If you have other experiences of what Cancer really can express itself as, definitely leave a comment below and let me know your experience if it is different than what I'm explaining. So we will get into the forecast for Cancer season now. So this forecast, I would say, is very symbolic in a sense because we actually have 2 Capricorn full moons this year. We just had the strawberry moon, the first full moon in Cancer season, which anytime there's a full moon in the season that we're in, the sun season, it always means that the full moon is sitting in the opposite sign. So basically what's happening this year is that was at 1 degree of Cancer and Capricorn. So the sun was at 1 degree, the moon was at 1 degree of Capricorn. So now that that gives us some time, it's actually going to end up being another full moon at the anaretic degree of Capricorn. I think, I don't know the exact date. I will actually explain that here. June 20th, the sun enters Cancer. So that already happened by the time you're listening to this. It has been completely symbolic of Cancer season, my attendance here. Basically, it's just been so wildly busy, so that is why this video is uploaded just a tiny bit late, but all of this is still going to be super useful to you because Cancer season is from June 20th to about July 20th. So you get to use these tips, the forecast, all month to inform kind of your lifestyle, your business, whatever that may be. So the summer solstice was actually on the 20th this year, which is, I heard, the earliest it's been in a long time. I don't know the exact year, but I don't think that there has been this early of a summer solstice for a very long time. It is usually on the 21st, which isn't like a crazy difference, but I find that still symbolic that it is 1 day earlier this year than most years. So June 21st was the full moon in Capricorn, so that was kicking right off Cancer season with a full moon, which I find to be symbolic, definitely. The way that I would see that as symbolic or symbolism for you in your lifestyle is just to definitely balance out the possibility of heightened energy with calming lifestyle activities, whether that is taking supplements to like calm your nervous system, adaptogens to adapt to stress. All of that is going to be super useful, especially during the beginning of Cancer season, which we are still kind of having the effects of the full moon now. But basically, this is a stressful time of year as there are a lot of activities happening. There's a lot of expectation to be doing things, and there's a lot going on. So we need to balance it out the same way that nature balances itself out, and introduce calming activities for us to then be very much more present in the outer world. On June 29th, we have Saturn going retrograde. This could really indicate, depending on where it's lighting up in your chart, a reestablishing of some sort of responsibility, limitation, boundary. This is something that could be a little bit less noticeable in the short term and much more noticeable in the long term. So definitely keep your eyes on where Saturn is in your chart. If you don't know your birth chart, definitely look in the description below because I have the link to input your birth information that will give you your birth chart. June 2nd, Neptune goes retrograde. We have Saturn and Neptune going retrograde, and both of them are in Pisces. So Pisces has a lot of reformation kind of energy this month, which I find also something that water signs might feel the majority of because the sun is lighting up Cancer. Pisces is being lit up by Saturn and Neptune having kind of a difference in direction. Nothing very evident in Scorpio, but if you have a sun sign in any of the water signs, you will possibly feel this the most. July 5th, we have a new moon in Cancer. So that is a beautiful time. I would say because Cancer rules the moon, this is going to be even more felt in the short term. This is a really, really great time to get clear on your feeling about the way you show up in your life and your dedications. This is a very specific word that just came to mind, but the things that you are dedicated and devoted to. This would be a really good time to sit and be still and define what those things are with clarity. As things are moving so fast this time of year, again, we want to balance it out with symbolism. And sometimes the symbolism can be physical things like herbs and things that you can actively do in your life. And this is one of those things that would be a spiritual kind of self-regulatory activity to get really clear on your devotions, the things that you are dedicated to, the things that you hold the desire to continue for long term, the things that you want to really, really engage with. It's a really great time to redefine those goals. Think about like the new year. The new year actually does take place in Capricorn season, and it's no surprise that during that time we are very much supported to make goals and to think about the long term and to think about our next steps moving forward. The signs of Cancer and Capricorn tend to deal with the very subject matter of goals, whether it's aspirational, whether it's about your career, but it all has to do with these larger, bigger picture plans of your life, whether it's outward or inward. So whether that's your devotions, your relationships, the things that you find that you connect with the most, or it could be the outer things that connect most with your legacy. And then we end Cancer season with the full moon in Capricorn on July 21st. So another full moon in Capricorn. I find this most symbolic because these signs are the tropical signs, and they tend to be very, very evident for most people, as in like most people can feel the energies of Cancer and Capricorn whenever the sun lights them up. I think that everyone feels the turning point, if you know what I'm saying. There's always the biggest change of season. It is always symbolic of something major, whether it's like spiritually, and this all really is depending on your birth chart and where Cancer and Capricorn light up your birth chart. So to end Cancer season with the full moon is definitely symbolic to me. I find that to begin it with a full moon, to end it with a full moon, really gives this energy of kind of everything coming to a head. There's probably a lot of decisions being made, a lot of possibly harder elements of life being decided on. Big changes, like big decisions, big changes, big elements being changed or reworked to then drive kind of this longer term goal. I know that is definitely happening in my life. I can't really speak about it yet, but there's just bigger things in the works that are going to affect the element of life that is large and meaningful in terms of the long term. Okay, so now we are going to get into some lifestyle tips for Cancer season, which is June 20th to July 20th. So this full month, there are certain energies that are at play, right? I understand that astrology plays out in our lives in very nuanced and specific ways, and therefore every single month I come up with lifestyle and business tips. I am also a solopreneur on the side, and that is why I do these business tips. So taking in astrology really helps me to understand the energies that are at play right now for the whole month, what they actually mean for you and how you can best use that to your ability, no matter what zodiac sign you are. This is mainly like spiritual wellness for yourself and how energy might affect you this month based on what I'm seeing in the charts and the transits. So my first lifestyle tip is to engage with outward activity that promotes better understanding of self. So as you can kind of see, we're talking like big subjects here. Like the subject matter is very much about like the self, reflecting of self, the goals of self, and those are big and broad, right? And that is symbolic in and of itself. Capricorn is always dealing with the self in the world, and Cancer is always dealing with the self inside and in the inner world, like the understanding of yourself as you are in the perspective of self. Versus Capricorn, I think, is a little bit more aware of self, the self as it stands in the outer world, and that's why you find that Capricorn energy has a lot of expectation for aspiration and reaching the next goal, reaching the next level. It's very much a reflective sign in the outer world. So another thing I wrote down here is a great time for optimal self-expression driven by understanding and passion. A turning point from Aries, integrating more of self. So this is really speaking to something that I sometimes talk about on this channel, and it is the wheel, the astrology wheel. And there's kind of a life cycle integrated into the astrology wheel, which I will explain. Aries can always be seen as like the Big Bang, the birth, the conception of something. And this something kind of relates to all things. I tend to see life as everything is a part of this big cycle, and everything has a cycle in and of itself. So if you think about the life cycle of the zodiac wheel as it stands in all of our birth charts, where Aries is, where the zodiac sign of Aries is usually this area of life that can seem somewhat like the Fool energy in the tarot, a place where you are like just beginning something. You might come off a little bit naive in that area of your life because it's very new, but it's very explorative, and it is also very self-aware. It is much about your self-growth in that area, your self-actualization in that area. And when we're talking about the wheel and the life cycle within the wheel, Aries is the beginning. Cancer is like the quarter way to Aries. So we are at the first turning point, the first major turning point from Aries season. And so this is kind of, in terms of life cycle, if Aries is birth, Cancer is about 25 years old, right? Cancer is when there's a lot of self-awareness. There's nothing extremely outward yet when it comes to like legacy and life and the overarching kind of energy of your life that would come later on. So my second lifestyle tip is to do something every day that keeps you in touch with your yearnings. Do you want to learn something for a purpose? Become a better partner, daughter, son, mother, father. This is the time to engage openly, outwardly with these goals and desires. So this is really speaking to Cancer, the zodiac sign, and what it represents for the symbolism of this time. As I said, these are very big, broad topics when we're talking about Cancer or Capricorn. And Cancer is really concerned with the inner desires and who you are as a person, right? You've gone through Aries, Taurus, Cancer, or Taurus and Gemini, and now you're at the point of like self-reflection and who you want to be for moving forward, right? So this is really just speaking to who you want to be and like reflecting on those elements of who you are. My last lifestyle tip is to get clear on your next steps. So this is again really speaking to the self-reflection from the first lifestyle tip and the yearnings that I mentioned in the last tip. It's all about really defining your values as a person, like as you are as yourself, and getting clear on your next steps in the similar way that we get clear on our goals, our aspirations in the winter solstice time. So this is really speaking to getting clear on your next steps as a person, right? Like as Liz, as you. Who do you want to be, and what next steps do you want to take to reach those personal goals, more personal goals? Capricorn is much more about the goals in the outer world and the external. Maybe it's about career goals. Maybe it's about running a marathon. Maybe it's about achieving something in the earthly material, in the real world, while Cancer is much more susceptible and much more concerned with kind of the intuitive self understanding that isn't really seen. It's more spiritual. It's more of a goal that has to do with spiritual fulfillment. So I wrote down here, if there is a turning point happening for you currently, this is the best time to define your goals for your inner well-being. This doesn't mean it has to be something private. It simply means prioritizing yourself and your life's truest desires. So this is really just reflective of the self again. It could just be reflective of prioritizing yourself over maybe others, or prioritizing the inner goals versus the outer goals during this time. Okay, so now we are going to get into the business tips for Cancer season. So again, these tips are really incorporating the astrological symbolism with the current transits going on in astrology. So this is going to be really beneficial for people who are solopreneurs, crafters, artisans, and wellness businesses. I think wellness businesses can benefit from these kinds of tips most, because it is very much in alignment with a slow living lifestyle, a lifestyle that is very much intact with nature, wants to be aligned with nature, wants to live with nature. So all of these things are going to be super beneficial for you specifically as a business owner who wants to live more seasonally, more in alignment with nature. So my first business tip for Cancer season is to go inward and revamp your mission or gain clarity on purpose. So a couple of notes with this one. This is a wonderful time to have a reestablishing of identity and get clear on inner motives. Take time apart from connections to gain new perspective. Travel, pause on automations, and take time to get present. So again, we are speaking about the same themes that I mentioned in the lifestyle tips, but this is more so specific to business in the sense that you want to, instead of engaging with the external to gain clarity on goals, it's more beneficial right now to actually stay more still, not be taking upward action, and instead grounding into yourself to then get clear on your own standpoint on things. I'm actually doing this currently in my business. I was doing a strategy on social media, and I started to feel misaligned with the goal in the sense of the long term. I wasn't sure, and I still am kind of working out the details, but this is just an example for you to understand. It's like if you're working towards something and now that something feels possibly misaligned with your values, it is a really good time to disconnect right now and kind of be in your own stillness, be in your own body, whether that means and doing the things that activate this self-actualization, the self-awareness. So for me, travel always brings different perspective, and I think that happens for a lot of us. Travel is one of those big things in life that always puts a different perspective on things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to see if you stayed in the same environment. So that's huge right now. Pausing on automations, because there's this element of like keeping things going right now and like being so external and being just like actively social. But at the same time, if your goal is changing, your end game is changing, it could be smart to step back and actually enjoy the present, like be more present in this outer expression. My second business tip is to tend to and or nurture areas of business that keep your passion alive. So this is a great time what I wrote down here, a time of peak light reminds us to look to our vitality, what reaps life and what keeps our fire burning. So this is really speaking to like learning, engaging more in personal duties and life, and filling up your cup are examples of this. So I'm actually also feeling this in my business as well. A perfect example of this to kind of combine the past two business tips is if you are feeling like there could be a shift, like a turning point in your overall goal for something, and this something could pertain directly to your business or it could pertain to yourself and it is going to affect your business. A really good idea right now would be to pause on the thing that you are unsure about, right? And instead, possibly take like a free course or engage with educating yourself on the thing that is actually speaking to your desire more, the thing that is actually lighting your fire more. All of that is extremely supportive right now for the very reason that Cancer sits at this very intricate place in the sky where we are about to be in the one time of the year that is ruled by the sun, right? We are leaning towards Leo season. We are going more and more towards Leo season, which actually is associated with the desires of the heart and is actually associated with the elements of heart and like our heart's desires, our heart and where it stands in and if our heart is fulfilled, if we are actually following our heart. So this is speaking to not only that, but Cancer really is like the beginning of the season where it is ruled by fire, and fire is associated with the heart. So when things like light our fire, we have like this health happening in our hearts, and our hearts feel open, our hearts feel expressive. And that is exactly what this is really referring to, is making sure that we are not like dulling our vitality right now, because vitality is ruling the astrological symbolism right now. All things are growing. The growing season is abundant. Virgo season is harvest season. So when you think about growth in terms of the year, we've planted the seed in Aries and or Taurus, and we started to see the growth, and we are now in like the midway growth, right? Out of like the growing season, if Virgo is harvest and Aries is like the seedling, then Cancer would be about the middle. And so we are in full growth mode. So anything that is dimming your light, dimming your desire, dimming the way that you feel like you are prolifically growing, those are the things that you want to avoid and stop, reframe, and get really clear on the goal instead of continuing in a path that might not be aligned with you anymore. So my last business tip for Cancer season is to change the systems and structures to realign more accurately with your idea of your business's legacy. So what I kind of wrote down here is this is a time ruling the relationship between Saturn and the Moon, our feelings and our limits and thresholds. So Saturn, which is Capricorn's ruling sign, which is our opposite currently, is ruled by Saturn. It is a Saturn-ruled time that is opposite from us, and the dynamic right now that is being activated is Saturn and the Moon. So when we think about the dynamic between Saturn and the Moon, we can really identify it as like our inner world, our interchangeabilities and the limits and thresholds of life. So as you're kind of making the connection now, Capricorn being ruled by Saturn is really indicating like what is our highest limit for ourself. And it's like also speaking to Cancer, self. So it's like if Capricorn is all about the limits, the thresholds, how can I reach that? How can I achieve that? The outer limits and thresholds of our life, like getting to that next level. The opposite, the Cancer aspect of that, is very much into our own body and into our own feelings and understanding like the seedling of the outer goals. Like why do we want that? What is the desire? What is the devotion? And so when I say changing systems and structures to realign more accurately with your idea of your business's legacy, we're kind of speaking about the systems and structures being the inner, the Cancer, like what are these things really working towards, and the idea of your business's legacy, like realigning it with that legacy. So it's basically another way of saying, how can we be more accurate and more clear and concise? We're in a water sign. How can we be more fluid in the way that we want to reach our desires, our legacy? I also wrote down, when you think of the vision of your business within the context of having utmost authority, what needs to change in order to experience that reality? So this is really just speaking to the outer goals, the outermost ideal, right? So Capricorn is also at that time in the year where idealism starts to come to a head, and our visions for our life. We tend to always think of like the summertime and the wintertime because we're like, wow, that's ideal. That's like the ideal life. That's the ideal weather. And I want to experience this during the summertime when things are easier, when things are more easily done. That is all pertaining to this like overall idealistic goal. So when we are thinking about the context of this, and you think about how you want to show up in your authority, it is really smart to think about the inner structures and the inner processes that are making that goal come to life. So that is all for the seasonal wellness video for Cancer season, summer solstice symbolism, and summer wellness. I hope that you really enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like and consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and you want to see monthly videos on seasonal wellness topics. I highly recommend that you watch my other video if you are still kind of unclear about how you can really integrate seasonal wellness into your life, into your lifestyle, your business. I highly recommend viewing last year's video about June, I think it's called May, June, or June, July, Cancer season wellness, Cancer seasonal wellness. So if you want more context to this video, I highly recommend you check out that video. I will probably link it in this end card here now on YouTube. If you are watching on Seasons and Sessions, I thank you so much. Please leave a comment if you would like to understand more clarity about Cancer season. I will be sure to answer you throughout this month so that you have utmost clarity moving forward into the month ahead. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next month.